Folks, there's a lot of games out there, and despite the fact that we run a gaming channel here, there's some classic icons of the industry and recent major successes that I just never got to play. I'll gladly admit there are several gaps in my education, so that's why we started this new show, Thorgi Finally Plays. Now, this isn't a review show, it's more of just me giving you my impressions as someone finally checking out these games for the first time, with all the pre-existing knowledge, or lack thereof, going into it. And for the first episode, I'm choosing Megaman X. I'm picking this one because when this game came out, I was at the perfect age for it. I was 9 and this was a game about robots, one of which was red, covered in spikes, had long hair, and a sword. It was everything a kid in the 90s could possibly ask for. However, I never picked it up because, well... because the Mega Man franchise was hard. I grew up loving the design and the gameplay of this series. I remember always getting excited to see the new Robot Masters. Heck, I even watched that crappy cartoon that they put out even when I knew it was bad. But I never once finished a single Mega Man game. Hell, I don't even think I ever even got more than halfway through any of the Robot Masters, so even though all my friends at school were talking about how much they loved this game, and how much better it was, and how cooler X and Zero were, I knew my limits and I decided not to play it. But it always stuck with me. It was always there in the back of my mind, bugging me that I never even gave it a shot. So today, I'm going to fulfill that childhood goal of mine. I'm going to charge in there and not only play Mega Man X, I'm going to beat it. Again, I recognize that over half the gaming community out there has not only beaten this game several times, they could probably do it in their sleep by now, but come on guys, this is a big deal for me, so just bear with me for a little while. Now I should mention I'm not going into this game completely blind. Thanks to the internet's love for this game, I already know that it introduced a wall climb, an upgrade system, and a brand new villain in Sigma who has his own crazy backstory. And it's a good thing I already know all of that, because this game expected you to read the booklet that the game came with, and since this is 2019 and I'm playing it as part of the Mega Man X Legacy Collection, that's not a thing anymore. So instead, I ended up being thrown right into the game's intro stage, which was very different from the previous Mega Man games, and I have to say, I actually appreciate that this game gave you an intro stage. It actually gave you basically a tutorial level so that you can get used to this game, rather than immediately throwing you up against the map and saying, I don't know, you figure out which Robot Master you're supposed to go up against. But in this tutorial stage, you end up going left or right. It's designed specifically to introduce you to many of the mechanics in the game. You end up meeting the brand new villain of Vile, who immediately defeats you, and I have to say that's actually kind of a smart thing to do at the beginning of a Mega Man game. Rather than I have to go and stop Dr. Wily, oh my goodness, I now have someone out there who has shown me they're much stronger than me. I know there is a threat at the end of this game I will have to eventually face. That's actually a good setup. And then you are thrown back to basics. You then once again have to choose which of the 8 different Robot Masters, or Mavericks as they're called in this game, you have to go up against. I decided to start with Chill Penguin because, well, look at him. We've got a big electric ape, a bug with razor blades on its head, an aerial killing machine that looks like it's designed to take over the Decepticons, and then a slightly rotund penguin. Yeah, I think I can take him. And much to my surprise, I did. I used the wall jump ability to avoid almost all of his attacks. I dropped back down whenever there was an opening, attacked him back, and then I started climbing the walls again. I feel almost like this guy was supposed to be the first boss that I fought, because you know how in Mega Man, all the bosses have weaknesses to all the other bosses' abilities? But that always makes the first boss fight that you go up against really difficult because you don't have any of those other abilities yet, so you just have to use your basic Mega Buster? It feels almost like they specifically designed Chill Penguin to have a weakness to the wall jump ability. It feels almost like this boss fight was designed entirely for you to use the ability that you just learned in the tutorial level in order to beat him. And if that's what they were going for, that's actually brilliant game design. From there, I challenged Spark Mandrill, because again, even if I haven't played this game before, I've heard stories about it, and Spark Mandrill's weakness to Chill Penguin's ice attack is legendary in the gaming community. There's even a term for it, Spark Mandrill Syndrome, when you have an ability that can put a boss into an infinite stun lock combo. So yeah, he didn't give me any trouble at all. And after that, I got nothing. Yeah, that was all I knew about this game. Spark Mandrill was weak to Chill Penguin. That's about all I got. So that started the great Mega Man edition of Guess Who? We all know this game, where you just travel from one world on to the next with no idea of who is weak to what abilities, or even what really to expect on each level, so it basically just became a long series of me dying over and over again, at which point I was reminded of how difficult these games are. I continuously died, and not even to the bosses. Heck, on some of these levels, I didn't even make it to the boss. On Launch Octopus's stage, it took me an hour. An hour of dying over and over again to this stupid fish submarine. There's a lot in my life that I'm ashamed of. This one might be up there at the top. I'm talking permanent record kind of shame. I'm talking the it will keep you from getting a job kind of shame. The kind of shame that will follow you for years. My fellow Americans, I have called this press conference here today to announce that within the year since my inauguration, I have helped to push forward legislation that has dropped unemployment to record numbers, set forth a clear path on how to fight climate change, and within the next month, will make America a completely energy independent nation. I will now take questions from the room. Yes. Mr. President, we just received footage of you dying to an angler for over an hour straight in Megaman X. How do you respond? I hereby announce my resignation effective immediately. You're all screwed. Thank you. Bye. But slowly, I was able to make my way through these maps. Using the electric shock on Armored Armadillo, who real talk I need a plushie of right now, then using Armadillo Sphere Balls on Launch Octopus, and then immediately realizing that was a dumb idea because even if that is supposed to be Launch Octopus's weakness, don't use them. It's stupid. Those things stop the moment that they run into one of Launch Octopus's projectiles. Just use the Mega Buster. It goes straight through all of them and hits Launch Octopus as well. Then I use Launch Octopus's homing missiles to take down Boomer Kawanger with ease. I almost felt guilty using that attack. It was way too easy, but again, after dying so many times to that stupid fish submarine, I'll take easy at this point. I don't care. That stupid beetle had it coming. But even with the magic homing missiles making it super easy to take down Boomer Kawanger, it still took me several hours to get through just those 3 bosses, and I decided that was enough for the night. So I turned the system off, came back the next day, at which point I discovered that this game doesn't autosave! Yes, you can get the game to save your progress in Mega Man X Legacy Collection, but it won't do it for you. I hadn't saved since Spark Mandrill, so that means that all that time, all those hours I spent on stupid Launch Octopus and those other bosses, I had to do it all again. It took me 3 hours to get through those 3 bosses, and now I had to repeat it all. So I went into this game ready to spend the rest of my life being sucked down to those spikes again and again by the same stupid fish submarine. But that's when it happened. What had been nearly impossible just the night before was now actually kind of easy. I spent 3 hours the night before on these 3 bosses, but in an hour and a half, I not only recovered all of that lost ground, I beat the remaining 3 Mavericks as well. It was amazing. As I said, I spent my childhood dying over and over again to Mega Man games, and now for the first time in my life, I actually knew what it felt like to learn from dying over and over again to Mega Man games. I knew what it felt like to actually develop muscle memory, to learn patterns. After all these years, I actually enjoyed playing a Mega Man game for a reason other than, hey look, a cool robot. But that wasn't the only thing I found I loved about this. I knew Mega Man X had an upgrade system, so before I went into the final battle, I decided to hunt these pieces down, and I had no idea how deep this went. Every piece of armor that you get didn't just give you a new ability, it gave you a great new ability. Your armor plating helps raise your defense. How much does it raise it? 10%? 15%? No. 50%. The upgraded Mega Buster doesn't just give you a third charge level to your regular attack, which would have been more than enough on its own, it gives every Maverick weapon a new secondary ability. These are honestly some of the best upgrades I've ever seen in a video game, and it doesn't stop there. You can find heart tanks that raise your maximum health, which thank God for that, because when this game starts, a rough breeze would fold X in half. And you can also find energy tanks that you can store with health that you collect on every single level to use later on. I love this so much, because how often in a game do you see health just laying around? And you know that you're going to need it later on, but you can't take it with you. This game solved that over 20 years ago, and still to this day, no one has learned from their lesson. And all of these upgrades actually play into the theme of the game. At the end of this, you run into Vile, the villain who mocked you for being weak in the beginning, and then you have to go head to head with him to show him just how much stronger you've become. Using the mechanics of the game to actually play into a pivotal moment in the story, that's just good game design right there. And you use these new powers of yours to overcome Vile, but not until after Zero had to sacrifice himself. No, Zero, you had a backstory that wasn't really explained in this game. And I also know that you come back just fine in later games, so it really has zero emotional impact on me. But I'm sure if I was 9 years old and I was playing a Mega Man game and the cool swordsman guy had to sacrifice himself to save me, I probably would have been devastated. So, after all the upgrades, after fighting all the bosses, multiple times I might add, after getting the Hadouken, which is a special attack that you can only get if you achieve everything else in the game, but it lets you instantly kill any opponent. Again, damn does this game have amazing upgrades and reward you handsomely for all your hard work. But after all of that, I finally faced off with Sigma, and I beat him. I beat his dog, I beat his stupid Swordmaster style, and I beat his giant weird wolf Voltron form. I finally beat a Mega Man game, and you know what? I get it. I get the love that the X franchise has now. It took everything the previous Mega Man games did, spiced up the game with several new mechanics and an upgrade system that still to this day is one of the best I've ever seen in any game, and took the storyline in a much heavier and more mature direction. Well, at least compared to the old stories. At the end of this game, you basically have a shot of X looking off into the distance, wondering how long this pain will go on. Only the weapon at his side knows the answer. Yeah, okay, I'll admit, it's nothing that deep, but again, in the 90s, little 9-year-old me would have been blown away that a Mega Man game took a tone this serious. So on this show, we're not going to be giving out scores to these games because, as I said, this isn't really a review show. It's more just my experience finally playing these games. But if you want to know my feelings towards Mega Man X summed up in one simple, easy statement, how about this? I rented this game from GameFly, and now I own the entire Legacy collection. Because as soon as I finished this, I loved it so much I had to get the rest of them. This isn't just my favorite Mega Man game, it's one of my favorite platformers of all time, and I can't wait to tackle the rest of these. And someone tells me I'll spend a good chunk of time on this. This was a great purchase because I got like, 8 games in here, and I spent 10 hours on the first one alone. This thing's gonna keep me busy all year long. What? Doesn't everyone take 10 hours on the first Mega Man X game? That's like the standard, right? This isn't a game that everyone else beats in the matter of like, one sitting. This is a big deal, right? I'm gonna go on howlongtobeat.com, and I'm just gonna check real quick and see real quick how long everybody else spends on this, because I'd like to announce that I'm quitting YouTube effective immediately. You're all screwed. Thank you. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the first episode of Thorgi Finally Plays. Got any games that you think I should tackle? Let me know in the comments down below, or on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade, or on Twitch at Professor Thorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.